All right. I'm Ian with Sidas. Bringing you a bonus Sunday with Sidas. I'm here with Ben Popp from the American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation, and they're gearing up to get ready for, I think, probably one of the few in-person races that are happening in 2020. Ben, thanks for joining, and I'll pass it off to Ben and kind of introduce himself and talk about the American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. My name's Ben Popp. I'm the executive director of the American Birkebeiner Ski Foundation here in beautiful northern Wisconsin, Hayward, community of 2,000. The foundation actually started back in 1985, interestingly enough. So the Birkebeiner, for those that don't know about it, is North America's largest ski race. And it's about, 13,000 or so people. And it's in February, in which case, in 2020, we made it in the nick of time, of course. It was a great event. It was good weather, and we actually host the Fat Bike Birkie, which is one of the largest, if not the largest, winter fat bike races. And that was 2 weeks later. And as people think back, that was like really in that time of what is going on. But in northern Wisconsin, we're a little bit behind the world sometimes.
Yeah, right. Got it in just the nick of time.
It made it in the nick of time. So anyways, the foundation, we put on events throughout the year. We have a fat bike race, mountain bike race, and the ski race is our largest event back in February. But we actually have been gearing up here. We're going to have our first in-person race coming up here in just a week from now. And the Birkebeiner Trail Run is typically around 1,500 runners. This year, it looks like it'll actually be not far off of that. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's going to be closer to 1,000. And it's going to be in person. Yeah, it's there's been a lot of work that's gone into how do you create this safe environment for racing, and people want to do it. But on the flip side, we also want to make sure, of course, that there's a safe environment. We don't want to, have a crazy spreading event. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen is, and we've actually have those that don't want to do it in person, that want to do it virtually, they can, of course. If you're immunocompromised, you don't feel like you can travel here, or you have certain travel bans, then, of course, you don't have to be here. However, it is the USATF National Championship. So there will be a national championship event for the half marathon. They'll be the largest group that'll start. I believe that's about 40 athletes. But other than that, so it's pretty interesting, the protocols that have been put in place. Christy and the crew, a lot of times events are all about gathering and getting together and hanging out, right?
Big party, yeah.
I mean, we always thought that's how we sell the events, right? Like, hey, come do these events, but at the end of the day, hang out with your buddies, get a beer, have a brat or something afterwards. Right. But this is everything but that, unfortunately, right? And, we were really nervous. Would people want to come to an event where you don't have a lot of that gathering? And people are just excited to want to get to do an event. They want to be able to get together and just even though they're in small groups. And so when people drive in, there's actually going to be a drive-in bib pickup. And so there's not like a traditional bib pickup. It's sort of like you're going to get COVID tested. You'll drive in, give them your name, you'll get your bib. You'll also get a lot of your aid station supplies. So goo and Cliff and that kind of stuff. Instead of getting it out at the aid station, you're going to have to carry it with you. So you're going to get it right away there. And then what's kind of cool, we have an FM transmitter that we set up. So as soon as you come into the parking, you'll tune your radio to 89.3. And so we'll be broadcasting over 89.3 all the race announcements and when it's time for you to start, because there's going to be 10 starters every 5 minutes. And so the idea being that the Birkebeiner start is a huge start area. There's about 100 feet wide, really large. In fact, I think there'll be some live webcams if people want to check it out. But so what'll happen is you'll come in and you'll be spread out, 10 people every 5 minutes, and off you go, 10 minutes, 10. And so the idea being to try and spread people out over that period of time. It really makes the event into a one-day event, into a whole weekend, because half marathon will go, and then after that, the 5K will go, and then after that, so you sort of have segmented these events. And we do have an ultra. We have, I think, about 65 runners in the ultra 100K. So that'll be good. And one of the changes that we had to do, unfortunately, or I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, we had to change the course to use more ski trail and less single track. The health department said, hey, we want to make sure that you have these wide trails, not just on this tight single track and sort of thing. And so it's kind of cool. I think it'll be fun. I mean, again, it'll be a little bit more ski trail than single track, but again, you're out running.
Yeah.
And then you know, you're going to have a good time and you'll see other people out there running. It'll be spread out. And the aid stations are modified too, of course. There's not going to be a lot of volunteers there, if any. We've created these touchless water systems that'll just kind of have water running. You can fill up your speed cup, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's a foot pedal activated noon dispenser, so you can get noon if you want that way. Again, you got to have your own cup. So there's, you know, you're trying to create these distanced pieces, and then anytime you're in a common area, you have to wear a face covering or mask. And then the you know, you get to the finish, and then you're sort of like cattle. You know, you get wove through and right back to your car. So, you know, of course, people can come back and hang out on the hillside or something like that. But it's really been, I think, interesting as an organization that puts on events and is really excited about bringing people together. How do you do that while still keeping people safe and sort of not, you know, you're coming together in a different way. And people have been really excited, I think, to say, hey, let's get together, do a race. We think it's safe. And we feel really good about it. So I think we'll learn a lot as it happens. We're going to be working pretty closely with the state health department and the county health department throughout the weekend to, hey, stop, can't do that, do this, those sorts of things as well, and really educate people to say, hey, we think this works or not, and move on from there. A lot of the, you know, we're part of the World Lopet, which is a series of ski races around the world, Sweden, Norway, whatnot. They've had really big mountain bike and running festivals just starting back up as well. So we've actually learned a lot from our partners overseas, sort of what they're starting to do with their events and getting people back into activity in a way that is, again, we don't want to put somebody in jeopardy, right, and making it unsafe. So, so we'll see. Yeah, that's right. It's meant to be a lot of fun. So I think I'm looking forward to it. It'll be our first go of it, if you will. But for a little town in northern Wisconsin, these events are really important to our economy, of course, and bringing people here. And we've had a lot of tourism here over the last months, just of course, as people are trying to get into the Northwoods and whatnot. So we know there's people here now. It's creating that safe environment for them. So it'll be fun. Let's see. You still got time to register. You got a couple of days, maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, a couple of days. Yeah. No,
so
that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. You kind of hit on some of the points, but like logistically, you know, going from, you know, a big event, 1,500 people, now having to social distance, you know, about 1,000 people. Like, how has that been for you guys? Like, how hard, and like, how has that been a transition and from what is normal, if you will? Yeah,
you know, I mean, I think of some of the quote unquote normal, you know, we have a huge event, well, not huge event. It's like a 8,000 square foot event space that we normally use that everyone's in and hang out, bid pickup, that sort of thing. So working through the logistics of how do you keep people apart when normally you do everything in your power to bring people together. Right. It's been a bit of a learning curve, but even things like out on the trail through the aid stations where you're trying to create this water, touchless water, and even the education piece about, hey, you know, can you please wear a face cover? You know, a lot of people don't like to wear masks, or they do, or they don't, or they just forget. And it's just, you know, those little things about reminding people, hey, we're in a big public space now. We got to have a mask on, those sorts of things. And then a friend that came up with this idea about the radio transmitter was kind of, you know, one of the things we're really worried about is if it's really crappy weather. I mean, it could be 38 and raining. Right. And have a huge warm space. Then what do you do, right? Normally you have these, you know, an event space you put people in. And so we realized their car is really the only thing they have that's private. In other words, it's warm, it's dry. So kind of came up with this radio idea that they've been using at other events, almost like a drive-in movie theater, right? Where, you know, tune your radio, and that way we can call you up and when you're going to come. Some of those pieces. And then there's some of the sanitation, you know, like normally we have a huge feast afterwards and people are hanging out, drinking beer and pop or whatever. Well, when you finish, you're going to get a box lunch and you're going, get out, that sort of thing. Which is, you know, again, kind of a bummer, not what you're expecting or hoping for. But at the end of the day, overwhelmingly, it's been interesting to hear people talk about, man, I know I can only start with 10 people, but I'm going to see people out on the trail and we're going to talk to each other and we're going to feel that camaraderie of the community again, which I think people are really hungry for. So we'll see. It'll be interesting how it turns out. And, even back to, like I said, we're really encouraging people, hey, you're going to have to carry more stuff with you because we're really limiting how many volunteers we have. You're going to have to carry more of your stuff, some of that stuff. And people have been pretty, a lot of times as events, we want to spoon feed people as much as we can and make it convenient for them.
Right.
And now people are starting to, I think, understand a little bit like, all right, well, okay, this is how, this is how it's going to be. And I'm okay with that. And, one of the interesting things too is people have said, well, how do we know if we're too close or not too close? And we haven't launched it yet, and it's not going to be here for the trail run, but we're going to launch an app, the Birkie app, here coming out really soon. That's going to help people know, like, okay, how many people are in the parking lot right now? I have all the different trailheads, so I know if I want to go to one where there isn't anybody, or, what's the latest, what does the trails look like, that kind of stuff. But we've also considered and are thinking about having people can, if they want, especially during the events, they can do contact tracing as part of the app. And so if it does come back to you have this event, then we will know, or people, if they want to know, and that there's been an issue. And so, it's interesting in these times that we're always thinking about now, people have to sign in when they get there. People have to sign out when they leave. It gives us a good estimation of when they're there. Obviously we've added extra timing mats so we can kind of see where people are. Again, if somebody comes back and says, hey, I was infected, we can kind of see where they were, who was around them, so that we can so those are all really weird things that you would never, we certainly never thought of in the past. I mean, again, we were all thinking about, how do we have get people to have a great experience outside versus now, you want to give this medium to have a good time, but it's also a lot about, how do we make sure they stay safe? And so it'll be interesting. Like I said, we're going to learn a lot, and the sort of, how do you keep people safe in terms of dry and warm is interesting as well. I think a lot of times we just take for granted, you have a lot of big warm space, event space, tents, those sorts of things that, now having these big public gatherings is not possible. So I think from an event standpoint, it's been a challenge, but on the flip side, I think, initially as everything just totally shut down, grocery stores slowly figured out how to open up, and banks or all these other businesses figured it out. I think as events, we're starting to figure it out. And just, instead of saying, we can't do it. It's going to look totally different in certain ways, but on the flip side, it's also still, it's a challenge. Train for it and go out and achieve it. And so I think it's kind of fun to see some of that come together. And
absolutely.
Right. And I think what you're also going to see more and more of, we actually, the week after the trail run, have decided to add a mountain bike race. It was like one of those things like, hey, people are, we had some bigger races up here that were canceled, some mountain bike races and stuff. And we said, hey, we've come up with this protocol that we now feel really good about. Let's have a mountain bike race. And so, you start to look at how are some of these events, didn't work or did. And now you start to evolve it into other ones. And we're starting to look at the possibility of having a Thanksgiving festival.
That'd be awesome.
It's one, again, if we have some safe protocols in place, the venue up at Telmark where we have the Birkie start line, and it's an area that we're purchasing some property there, or an old resort, where our snowmaking is. We're like, hey, it's a great place in the Midwest, and people are going to, want to ski, if there's some safe protocols in place. So we're thinking about having a, sort of demos. And again, even that looks different, right? As from an industry standpoint, we can't just have 8,000 people all standing around trying to get demos. So as funny as that is, as much as you want people to try product, well, you got to kind of spread them out. Somebody's way over there. And again, it's not as convenient as usual. But again, I think people are now understanding that if you can give them an experience of some kind, that it is good. And so we'll see. I don't know. We'll get back to you in 2 weeks and let you know how that part of it goes. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to being there.
Well, because you guys are going to be here on site and are, obviously knowing that it's going to be a little bit different, but again, it'll be I think good feedback for all of us to learn and see how it goes. And, you know, people will, I think, are going to enjoy the effort.
Yeah. I think, as I said, I think people are just itching to do something outside. So,
Yeah.
or race too. I know a lot of my friends had a lot of races planned that have all gotten canceled. So they're just itching for that. Like, where can I race that's safe, but I can still get that hard workout in and
Exactly.
all that training I've done. Yeah.
And you know, I mean, the virtual thing is great and it was awesome early on. And for some people that's still great, but I think people, you know, and again, we all do races for different reasons and want to get out, but I think some people, they want to just go test themselves against the clock on the same course on the same day. And so, you know, again, like even for the trail run, whether it's 10 people or actually some waves will have 20 people in them, you know, you're going out and you're racing the same day, and whether you're in the exact wave or a couple waves behind you, but it's the same course, you know, and you can kind of see how you're stack up and,
see where you are.
You know, why we like to race and challenge ourselves. So, you know, we all do it for a little different reasons. And I think it's fun to getting back and breathing hard and, you know, having that stopwatch, you know, on the clock. So it'll be good for sure.
Awesome. So I know it's the USATF Half Marathon Championships. How has that been? You know, is the response from the elite athletes just as good as it was before, or are you seeing not as many coming back due to, you know, travel restrictions or whatnot, what it might be?
Yeah, you know, actually, I wish I should have had the list in front of me, but it's actually a really good list of athletes. You know, I think it's sort of the back to the same thing. They know that it's not going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
For them, it's fortunate that we will give all those elite athletes a combined start. I think it's like 40. And so they will get to race head to head against those, you know, their peers, if you will. But there has been a few issues of people not being able to make it. And USATF has been good about, you know, really providing some support and help on, hey, this is a good protocol. We've tried this here. That's worked well. Because ultimately, right, we want to make sure that, yes, it's a fun event and it's safe. But now when we're talking about a national championship, we also have to make sure that it's a legitimate event and that it's fair for them to go out and be crowned the national champion. Again, we were a little bummed that we had to change the course a little bit because the new course that we were going to use for the national championship was fantastic. I mean, wicked hard, which they were going to love, right? You know, and it's so different here than like even out east or out west where we don't. I think the biggest climb was about 95 meters. So whatever that is, 300 feet. Yeah. So they're not like you're going up a mountain, but it was pretty relentless. There's like 4 climbs like that, but then all these other little, you know, just like 50 meter rollers, 20 meter rollers that are short and steep that, you know, on biker skis go really well, but on foot it's a little bit harder. Yeah. And so that was kind of a little certainly disappointing from our end because we thought the course that we had put together was going to be great. And so we're like, well, all right, we shelved it for a year. It'll be back next year, hopefully. But we're going to be able to use parts of it because some of the, interestingly enough, the venue that the race is going to be at is this old Telmark Resort that was started way back in the 70s. And it was actually, interestingly enough, one of the earliest places that had artificial snow for alpine skiing. It was Tony had started it back in the 40s, and he was a World War II tank general and came back and was just like, he fell in love with skiing and started this, a ski hill in northern Wisconsin means 300 feet of vertical. Right. And so I think Billy the Kid, one of the alpine skiers back in the day was like, and because he had this huge resort, there was like, this is one of the few places where the resort's bigger than the hill. But anyways, so there, it's a really cool piece of property because it does have some elevation change. Again, not huge, but it's just the topography is really great. So from a ski trail, running trail, mountain bike trail, it's really, really fantastic. And it's about 750 acres. So it's not, huge, but it's all surrounded by county land. And so public county land. So the trails really can free flow and you can really use some of the best topography and put it and kind of piece it together in ways that work really well. And So, I think hopefully the elite athletes have fun. I mean, I think they're going to have a good time. I think it's going to be I think the race will be fair.
Yeah,
They're going to be the very first race on Saturday morning. So the half marathon will be first. Then we're going to have, I think, then the 5K and the trek or something like that. But they'll be able to be first. It'll be, I think out on course together. And I'm excited. It's the third time that we've hosted the national championship. Gotten feedback from them as the elite athletes and USATF. Of course, every time you do it, you kind of figure something out. Like, hey, well, maybe we should do this. Maybe that would work better. And so I think, I think we're going to, hopefully we got her down a little bit this time around, but I think from the athlete standpoint, it should be a good race, and it'll hopefully crown a national champion, and they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, it should be a good race.
Fast.
Yeah, I've seen some of those times from last year, and I was like, I can't do that on road.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, and the thing of it is that being on a lot of the single track where it's really, it was pretty tight and turny. I mean, I think on the ski trails where it's a little bit more free flowing, I mean, they're going to just
haul.
It's going to haul. Yeah, it'll be really fast. But so it'll be kind of fun to see, and then we'll all be able to see how we stack up.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think this summer was the first time that you guys did like a lot of virtual stuff. Just kind of go through those challenges each month you did, and how was that? And, how did that go for you? Yeah.
It's kind of interesting, from the Birkie standpoint. Obviously, we have the ski race in February, which is the biggest event we have. It's, like I said, about 13,000. Then we have the fat bike. Then we have a couple 5Ks in the summer, and then this trail run. And then we have a couple, ski races, obviously, that are a little bit smaller in the winter. So we've always kind of had this natural kind of downtime, if you will, in the summer where, a lot of time is spent on trails, and we have a huge amount of tourists that come up and use the ski trails, mountain biking, et cetera, that we maintain, but never had really any events. And so we'd always been thinking a little bit of like, we should do some events. So we this summer, ironically enough, we had started to think about planning some summer events, and we were going to do some mountain bike and some other things. And then, of course, that quickly went by the wayside. And so so that allowed us, I think, to jump into the virtual thing pretty easily, because we were starting to plan a bunch of events anyways. And then, all right, well, we're not going to be able to do a 5K, or we're not going to be able to do this. All right, how do we kind of pivot on that? And what's been interesting is for each of the events, anywhere from 150 to 300 people that were signing up for any one of these series of challenges. And sometimes it was, how much distance you had to accomplish. You could do it running, you could do it mountain biking, you could do it roller skiing, you could do it kayaking, kind of the idea being that, you could do it in a variety of ways based on wherever you were. But interesting what the real benefit ended up being. Of course, each of those, I think, they signed up, got some cool swag from, folks like you guys, which was awesome. But I think it also really kept the community, if you will, together. You were always, even the people that weren't signing up, we're talking to probably 28 or 30,000 people a week, roughly speaking, through our email and our communications. And the feedback that we were continuously getting was really interesting, of other people within the community sort of supporting these challenges and like, well, man, did you see that guy did, 200 kilometers roller skiing or whatever. Yeah. And it was pretty cool to see sort of during these times where, it's been kind of chaotic and, just crazy, of course. And now the people were really rallying around sport, and they were either in a challenge or they knew somebody that was in a challenge. And I think it's really helped us pivot our thinking around, we have some of these signature events throughout the year, but man, there's such a huge community that we have how do we keep them engaged and excited? And these challenges sort of did that for us, not really intentionally either. Again, it was for us. We were just trying to figure out, man, how do we get people to, we were going to do this bike race. Now we can't do this bike race. Oh, let's do a challenge. And, but it ended up being this pretty cool medium to get people to continually sort of have this idea of, that, man, there's more people out there doing this, and we're kind of together on it. And
yeah, absolutely.
Really continued, I think, to also provide challenges for people to look forward to in their daily life. We got a lot of feedback about that. That I hate getting up and going running, but I'm thinking about doing that Berkey Trail run, so I do it every morning. Well, as events were getting canceled, people are saying, "Oh man, I need something to continue to motivate me, whether I'm trying to lose weight or I want to run a 6-minute mile or whatever their goals were." It now gave them something else to sort of work towards. And so I think a lot of folks in organizations and whatnot are going to continue to put on, I don't know if we'll continue to do them as sort of virtual challenges, because I think that's one part of it. And maybe that'll always be part of it. But I think having these series of challenges actually really, it kind of brought the community together more and more as we started to realize, like, oh, hey, and so it's, it was interesting to sort of, as that played out and continues to now, as we're getting back to seeing more events happen, that some of these challenges come back. I don't know if they'll be virtually so much, at least from our standpoint, but certainly the idea of continuing, even for instance, this winter, we're going to do a series of challenges on the Berkey Trail. I think there's different loops out there. And as I mentioned, we're going to launch this app that the Berkey app that'll have, a lot of information in it. Well, one of them is you'll be able to track these challenges. They're not going to be virtual so much. Again, now they're going to be actually on the trail. And so like, who skied the most elevation over the month of December? Who skied the most kilometers in the month of January? Or who did the fastest, this little 6K Bodecker loop, who skied it the fastest? Skied as many times as you want. But now we can even further, anybody that's in the app can now start to be part of that community. But again, you can sort of always be challenging yourself with, oh man, Johnny got 20 more K than I did this month on the Berkey Trail or whatever, So this idea of trying to really keep the community of, when I say community, I think, it's this grouping of runners, bikers, skiers that we all yearn for this collective community that I think we're a part of. We kind of are like-minded and enjoy being out in the woods, running or skiing or biking. And oftentimes it doesn't really matter what the medium is, so I think these challenges have taught us certainly a lot about trying to keep that group together. And then, like I said, I think evolving them from being maybe less virtual and more in-person will be kind of fun. And even maybe taking it on the road. Like, hey, we're going to Minneapolis and we're going to do the Theodore Worth Challenge and who can ski them, whatever, some of that kind of stuff. Will be fun. And even other clubs around the U.S. right now, you can start to do it as clubs with each other. And so it's kind of fun. We'll see, the silver lining of maybe, some of this necessity is forcing some good change. But we'll see.
The silver lining of COVID.
Exactly. Very, very thin silver lining. Call it a little bit.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I know I was part of a few of your challenges, and then I'm in the East, so NENSA had a bunch of virtual challenges too that I did, and I saw the same thing. I'm on the board of NENSA, and the feedback from people was exactly what you said. Like, gave me something to motivate myself, or it was just good to, see everyone else doing it, and that motivated me. And I think it was something that was definitely needed, and in the industry that we're in, and it's good to see. I think we're seeing more people who usually don't ski, run, bike now get into it, and having these virtual challenges to kind of motivate them definitely, hopefully grow the community even more.
One of the things that I'm really interested to see, and I don't know, maybe you know more about it in the East, obviously, we've seen here a lot of record numbers of bike sales, trail pass sales to state parks. And even I was talking to a few ski shops just yesterday in the Twin Cities, Pioneer Midwest and Tinsisu. They year over year already 2 and 3 times over sales already in comparing just August as an example.
Right.
So they're hoping, and we all are hoping, to get these people that are getting introduced to these outdoor activities to move into skiing. And one of the things that I'm curious about will be, a lot of times, skiing, riding a bike and running, it's pretty easy to just go out and do it. Skiing, oftentimes, right, there's these nuances of technique, and it's kind of hard. And a lot of times you join a club or you're part of it and you take some lessons. Hopefully we're going to be able to have a medium to do that, whether it's the clubs or something, because, you know, the worst thing that can happen is somebody says, hey, I want to try skiing. They get out there and they have a miserable experience. They're like, this is dumb, and forget it. And so I hope that, you know, if there is all this enthusiasm of people going out and trying it after, you know, hey, I got a bike, I love it, I want to do something this winter, that we can find a way to continue to give them either lessons or support or something. Because again, right, I mean, if there is going to be this big push of people, then gosh, I hope we can support them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
Are they starting to, you know, being able to have clubs sort of, I mean, is there hope that can be the possibility coming into fall?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the East, I mean, we have a lot of like boarding ski schools, obviously.
Oh,
So
sure.
they're all together. And then there's like clubs that are like meeting and like skiing together. You know, obviously NENSA hosts all the Eastern Cups. And so the hope there is everything can kind of run normal. It'd be, you know, social distancing, individual starts, but still kind of having that same capacity. So, yeah, I mean, again, like Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont are, you know, pretty low on the COVID list. So hopefully that can continue through winter and we can have like a good season. But as of now, yeah, everything's looking pretty good to kind of go back to somewhat normal.
Well, and it's interesting. We've had some calls as we are now getting into the fall and getting closer to the ski season, with whether it's the J&Q races for the juniors, but then also with all the marathons. We've been having a call about once a month with all the race directors on, okay, you know, what is the Vasaloppet and the Lopet and, you know, No Cayman, and what are all these races thinking about doing? Because, you know, obviously that adult skier population is so important to the industry that we want to be able to continue to provide. But on the flip side, they're often having thousands of people, you know, right next to each other. So, hey, what can we start thinking about now to create this medium so that people can be out skiing, having fun, but yet still be safe? And I mean, I get it. It's still, you know, 4 and 5 and 6 months away, and a lot can change between now and then, of course. But, you know,
gotta start planning now, though. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Because it's gonna be here soon, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Shoot. But,
well, yeah. But speaking of planning, going to like the Winter Birkie, you know, kind of what protocol. I mean, obviously you have the protocols for the trail race, which I'm sure will kind of go into the Winter Birkie. But obviously, the Winter Birkie, you know, 13,000 people. It's hard to do 10 skiers every 5 minutes.
Let's do the math on that for a second here. 11 days, 28 days later.
Yeah. So kind of like, what's, I'm sure you guys are hitting the pavement hard right now, trying to figure out what to do and how we can all make it work. But just maybe.
Yeah. So we, a couple things. One, we are going to have, again, back like the trail run, we will have a virtual option. So people that, you know, just can't, they don't feel comfortable or safe or whatnot, they won't, we'll give them the result where, you know, wherever they end up skiing it. And we're still working on, they'll probably end up racing it or skiing it through the app that I was telling you about, that they'll start it and stop it and wherever they ski. And they'll be a part of a separate results list. They can't get awards and that kind of stuff, but they can get credit for the race and that's so that's sort of the one part. And then the in-person part, again, not on wood here, but you know, things could change terribly, of course. But as now, we've kind of narrowed it down to 2 or 3 scenarios. The best case scenario being a little bit more normal, where we are, you know, as close to normal as possible, being able to start in Cable, come to Hayward. Maybe we're reducing things just a little bit, like busing. You have to sign up for a bus time because we can only allow 25 people on a bus. So you got to almost get like a bus ticket, and then maybe the waves get reduced. Even though you're in wave 1, maybe there's 3 wave 1s because there's only 100 people per start. Finish downtown. You know, the likelihood of there being no common spaces is pretty high, you know, big changing areas. So thinking through, how is that? Okay, I finished now. What do I do? Where do I go to change? Where do I get my dry clothes? There's a few things around there that we're kind of noodling on. So that would be the best case scenario. we've built a new, right where the Berkey start line is, we built a new adjacent stadium that we're, the very first World Cup in 1978 was at Telemark.
Oh, wow.
And so our snowmaking trails are adjacent or on Telemark's property, but they're just adjacent to Berkey start.
Mm-hmm.
So we just this summer built a second stadium that'll be used as a competition stadium that would be used back for like the J&Qs and the other events that we use there. But it would also, we're in this process of perhaps bidding for the 2024 World Cup. And so that stadium was built for that reason, but it also gives us a finish option. So that if we ended up having to ski a loop is the possibility where, you could, because the skate and classic trails are parallel to double O, it gives us the ability to ski out one back the other.
Yeah.
And now having the secondary stadium, and the advantage of doing something like that is we can park close to 3,500 cars at Telemark.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's almost like the trail run where now you have your own warm space. And so there's no big tents and there's all that stuff, but I now have my own car, if you will, that I can come back to. And so there's some kind of ideas around that we're starting to think about. There's some logistical issues with that, but there's also some upside to that. It's not skiing into downtown Hayward, and that's kind of a bummer.
Going over that bridge is
right.
It's
iconic. Exactly. It's funny. We just to get into this new stadium, we put in a culvert. So there's a pedestrian culvert to get into the stadium, but then you ski up and over it. So somebody made that comment yesterday. They're like, "Oh, you're that's like the new bridge, right?" So that if we can't ski into downtown, I was like, "Well, not really, but we can. Maybe you can think of it that way, I guess."
Yeah, exactly. Similar.
So right. And that's a lot of the fun. Again, back to the Berkey, right? There's only about this many people that are just going out there to crush it and do it in 2.5 hours. So many other people are out there just to like say they accomplished it, or hey, I was in the 4th wave, I want to get into the 3rd wave or whatever. I want to do it under 5 hours this year. But more than that, it's even a social thing. They hang out and they see friends that we get people from every state or 49 states. So, you can't tell me the people from Florida and Georgia are skiing much. Of course they're not. And so they're just coming because they want to be a part of the event and hang out. And so that we're very cognizant of that as well. Like, okay, no matter whatever happens with the event, we have to try and realize that, there's people there to ski it and race it and go fast, but then there's also a lot of people there that are there simply because they just want to hang out. And they are, they're there mostly because, again, they see their buddies and it's a social thing, and so that also goes into a lot of the planning here, of course. And the nice thing about skiing, a lot of times people have face coverings and masks already to begin with, and we have skis that are by now we're distanced by 6 feet, and so there is a lot of advantage. Of course, back to the trail run thing, likely we've already going to start to message, hey, plan on probably carrying a lot of your own water and carrying your own nutrition and those sorts of things. And so I think that will be a message that, this year you're going to have to be a little bit more self-sufficient. And, we got to come up with some kind of, like ski boot running shoe type thing. Because the other thing is that, you might end up you might have to walk a mile to your car, or who knows? There could be some really unique, weird things that happen. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like the porta potty stuff, now there's, in the process of buying like a hand sanitizer for every porta potty, so that that we could then now put on the outside. So the protocol is now with Wisconsin is, before you go in, you want sanitize your hands, because if I'm infected now, I've sanitized my hands, I can go in. So I go in with a clean hand. Use it. Now when I come back out again, now I sanitize in case I did pick. In case I picked it up, now the virus I can now clean again, sanitize on the way out. So little things like that will help, I think, with and they're creating these big vents on the top to give better air circulation through them. So there really is a lot of different modifications that are happening. Of course, hand sanitizing stations everywhere. But then again, I still have to change somewhere, right? So then we've kind of been coming up with these ideas, like how could you create these sort of open air stalls, if you will, that are like just so you can go back, like a curtain, right? I go in and change, but I'm sort of still outside, so that it's air free flowing. I don't know. you know, you got to just sort of like let your mind wander sometimes. Go for a bike ride or a run and just sort of like, because you got to think out of the box here. This is not normal, and this is not how anybody wants to do it, of course.
No,
but
absolutely.
it's you know, it's what we all want to do to try and create some cool experiences for people. And so, you know, it's you just, I think do what you think you can, and hopefully create some exciting events for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah, I think kind of like my last question, you've kind of hit on it throughout the whole thing, but like kind of what does it mean for you and like the Birkie Foundation to be able to host events like this and give the people the opportunity to, you know, race and get outside, and especially like, you know, obviously you've mentioned a few times, Hayward, Wisconsin is a small town. So getting people there is huge for that economy. So I kind of, especially during COVID, still getting, you know, as you said, 1,000 people to commit to coming to the trail race is amazing. So like, what does it make, like, how does it make you guys feel to be able to, you know, do something like this in a pandemic?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it feels really good that people are going to come out, that they trust us to provide a safe environment. But I think also for us, it's really, you know, a lot of times people say, oh, you know, you just put on a race, you work for the Birkie. Oh, what do you do the rest of the year type of thing? You know, I think we take a lot of pride in really trying to say, hey, we're putting on these events not only for the elite racers, but also for somebody that just wants to go out there and they're trying to lose 10 pounds. So they set a goal to do this 5K, and feel like, you know, we have the opportunity to use sport as a way to change people's lifestyle. And it just is, you know, as people that run and bike and ski, we know what it means when, you know, you've had a really stressful day and you go out for a ski and you're like, oh, I feel so much better. Or you get up for an early morning run and you're like, oh, this is great. And so I think to try and share a lot of that with the greater community is our goal. And oftentimes it's the event that is the inspiration for somebody to try it. And then they kind of get hooked. And then the next thing you know, they're doing 20 Birkies, or they're doing bike rides or roller skis or whatever. And so, you know, I think we take a lot of pride and put a lot of work into trying to create experiences for people that we know certainly benefit our community. People come and spend money and eat in restaurants, stay in hotels, but then also I think it's something that we hope provides an experience that inspires them to live that lifestyle. So, you know, we're going to keep on doing what we can to provide those experiences, and hopefully they go well, and we'll check back with you and let you know how they turn out.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. As I said, that was kind of all I had. If you wanted to, like, any of the last things you wanted to mention or plug before we leave.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, definitely. I would say, you know, check our website, Birkie.com, and we have what's called event updates is one of our tiles. And it's kind of interesting if people want to, it's worth going. And we've been doing it in a series of videos because we felt like videos are easier than people reading sometimes.
Yeah,
so
right.
Like a 1 to 2 minute video just about, hey, this is an update on our water systems. Here's how we're going to do touchless water. Or, hey, you know, we did like when we did our first 5K this summer, we did this here's how we did bid pickup, or, you know, little things like that I think people might find interesting in terms of how events are starting to evolve, and certainly check it out. And if people have any feedback or ideas, we love it. I mean, we've had some of our best ideas come from skiers and bikers and runners that call us up or write us and say, hey, have you guys ever thought about this? And we're like, no, we haven't.
Yeah, right.
That's a great idea, actually.
Yeah.
So we definitely would encourage people, if they have any ideas from an event standpoint or whatnot, to let us know, because we're all ears. And we look forward. Hopefully come visit us up here in the Northwoods.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you very much for taking the time. And I know I'm looking forward to this coming week. I'll be racing the half, and I'm ready for a fun event and to get out there and compete for the first time, I think, in 2020 in a running event. So
nice. Good deal. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you here soon.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
All right.